Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sage 200 Roadmap webinar this morning. My name's Sentley. I'm one of the account managers here at Solutions for Accounting, and I'm just going to take you through a few of the what's coming in Sage 200, what's been, a little bit of release information, and also show you a little bit of Power BI reporting and one or two features you might find useful. This webinar is being recorded, so if you want to show it to any of your colleagues, it will be available for download on our website, and it will follow around with an email link to it to everyone's been in the meeting as well. If you do have any questions, then please ask them at the end of the session. So Sage 200 has a product strategy, and as you'll see from this, there's two variants of Sage 200, Professional and Standard. Most of you here in this meeting today are on Professional, and therefore there's all sorts of integrated solutions such as Power BI, Stripe, PayPal, Go Cardless, Office 365 integrations. For those of you who use CRM, there's Cumulus, and most people in here will be using commercials, which is your sales orders, purchase orders, and stock. And Sage are working around that with some other options, so they're going to web enable it, and a lot of you are already using that functionality. Using Microsoft Azure, you can still have Sage 200 installed as you're used to having it, and as you've always had in the corner of the room. But we do have an option with something called Sage Partner Cloud, which is something of interest. Do speak to your account manager after this, and they'll be happy to talk to you about it. They are strengthening the core product and the API, and they're also working more with ISVs and trying to build relationships and bolt-ons for Sage 200 that give you some better integrations and more functionality. This morning's webinar isn't going to be on too long. You'll be pleased to hear you won't be hearing me talking for too much longer, but here we go. So we're going through. So Sage 200 has a roadmap and has had for many years, and there are themes around this roadmap. So web screens being one of them. Compliance, so that's, for example, making tax digital, returns to the HMRC, etc. New features, which is exactly what it says. Connected services, such as linking to 365, and maintenance of the line, which is ensuring that the system works with new releases and updates of operating systems, etc. And they've got timelines. So this year we've seen two releases of Sage 200 Professional, one in February and the most recent in August. And there tends to be a major and a minor release. We're also expecting the same for next year. So this is the 2023 year. Bear in mind that Sage's year runs from October to September. So if this looks slightly out of the line where you'd expect it, that's why. But we've got Sage 200 Professional. The next release is expected in February 2023, sorry. And as they say, the dates may change slightly, but that's Sage's schedule going forwards. And what is put into their versions is heavily affected by what goes into the Sage Ideas Hub, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But just to give you an idea, this is what's happened in the releases this year. So in Professional, in 2021 R1 and 2022 R1, so there's all sorts of options there, and I'm not going to read them all out to you. Like I said, this is on video, and we're going to give you some links anyway to the roadmap. But there's option things around courier integrations and tracking, so I'll give you some information around that as we go forward and show you it. This is what we're expecting, and this is what's happened. So moving on, as I mentioned, there's the Sage 200 Ideas Hub. So everybody who's in this webinar has got access to this. It's in Sage City. And for those of you used to using Sage 200, there's a little light bulb in the top right-hand corner of the screen that will take you to Sage City, where not only can you look at the Ideas Hub, there's also the reports library, there's forums you can discuss items on, and it's really worthwhile getting registered in there just to see what's happening. It also talks about new versions and guides you through what's going to be available for you. So, as I alluded to earlier, Sage look at the Ideas Hub when working out what to develop around new features. This isn't so much compliance for legal and taxation purposes. This is purely for what the users would like to see. So you can all register here, and if you ever had something where you've thought it would be great if Sage did this, so it's not a support case, it's not a fault, but you think it would be useful. So, for example, somebody here has put item price purchase update option. There's brief information, but you can vote on the idea. That means that you can also look at what other people have gone, and go, you know what, that would be really, really handy for us. So you can vote it up the list. It helps Sage move forward, and it might give you some ideas to useful additions in your business. In terms of what we're expecting in 2023, this is what's due to be released in the R1 edition. Now, let me be clear here. This is what they're expecting to release. There is no guarantee about this. They may change it due to functionality and testing. Equally, they may add further features into this. But again, we'll be sending out a link to this roadmap. But to give you some ideas, these are the sort of features they're putting in. Even simple things like increasing the length of the part number for a stock record, and that's been along with our support team a fair few times, and that's come from the Ideas Hub as well. So that was submitted into there and voted up. And as well as the prior year journals, that was also something that's come straight from the Sage Ideas Hub. So Sage really are taking on board the feedback given to them by customers. Apologies, I hadn't realised my screen wasn't showing, and so this will probably make more sense to you now. Going back to the Sage City, the Ideas Hub, which you should all be able to see, hopefully, and the Help Centre here. So as we go through, we can see what Sage have already delivered, and I'm going to filter this by professional because most of you in this room are using that. But as you scroll down to the release date of your software, so that was latest released in August. So if you, for example, were on the version released in February last year, these are all the features that you've got available to you if you upgraded. And I know some of you are on much older versions. As you can see, there's all sorts of web forms, which a lot of people are starting to use. So Sage 200 was very much a traditional process. It was always on site. It was always on premise. So Sage have now tried to move away from that slightly and give people web options. And obviously, a lot more people working from home now. And server-based infrastructure isn't what it used to be. And a lot of people moving to cloud options. So Sage are listening to that and progressing those options within Sage 200. Let me just go into, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a product demo now, just to show you some of the information. So hopefully you should all be able to see my Sage 200 screen. And you'll notice that within the later version of Sage 200, they talk about the roadmap. So there's links there. You can click on the Have Your Say, legislative information, the Sage University with some training, bank feeds. So anybody who's not using these might want to start looking at them. Again, we're more than happy to talk you through the varying options and contact your account manager, which is either Dan or myself, to discuss anything in here further. We're going on to, like I said, some of the new features. So the courier tracking one is quite an interesting one. And what this means is you can set up a courier. So here's one I made earlier, as they say on Blue Peter. Speedy, fast couriers. You can enter a consignment number. You can have a reason for export. You've got all these varying. It could be a sale, for example. One. And this can link to your couriers for tracking. So when I hit save, now obviously speedy fast couriers don't actually exist. You can now see that's been updated. And if I view that order under the dispatches, I can see the tracking information there, and that can link to a web link if you've got it set up for your courier service. Not going to be useful to everybody, but hopefully it should be useful to a few of you, and I know who use couriers heavily for your business. We also have an area that a lot of people don't seem to be aware of or use, Excel reporting. So these reports can be built, and it's really worth having a look at them, guys, because what you can see in here and I'll show you, is drillable information. So you can drill down, view, and technical issue there, guys. I will send a PowerPoint out with those slides on, but seriously, look at these. You can update the information and you can build it as you wish. The other area we often find isn't used is workspaces. This is, again, these are viewable outside of Sage, so these can be looked at on a mobile device, etc. And they're really, really useful. So, for example, on the sales orders, you can hover over the value status and you see with a really quick, easy graphical representation what's available, what status your document's in. And again, we have a lot of people use these, for example, for credit control. So you can see here, all my information is in one screen. It's not spread around. You're not having to jump out of the screen. So I can look at Better Kitchens. I can see all their details, and they can see where the balances are made up from. And it's probably a better example than Quality Counts Kitchens, but it gives you an idea what's happening. So, and again, on the purchase side, you can also look. You can add columns as you wish. So, for example, exchange rate. You can search. So I can search by supply code. So it gives you all those filter information. Like I say, those can be exported to Excel if I wanted to, or to Office 365. And we can take it from there. So all these are available to you. Something else that's in Sage 200 that a lot of our clients perhaps aren't aware of, or we've had some feedback weren't aware of. Traditionally with Sage 200, to invoice properly, you had to use sales order processing in the commercials module. Sage listened to feedback again from the Ideas Hub about how people want to be able to view all their invoices, a list of invoices, and they don't want to have to, particularly where there's not stock involved, where there's services, they don't want to have to go through the whole period of making the sales order, allocating it, etc. So within here, we can quite simply now, if there's a free text item, I'll give it a description. And that's it. That invoice is now generated. And if I look at and refresh that list, you can see every invoice you've got, even if it's been generated in sales order process, it's in that list. So if somebody wanted me to find a certain invoice number, rather than if you haven't got the account details or whatever else, you can simply go, and there you go. And I can go into that invoice, view what it was for. It's laid out very much like sales order processing, but again, it might just save you a little bit of time. For those of you who don't know, the little star there adds these documents to favorites, and you can rename your favorites. So if I favorite that and then close my screen, within favorites here, I've got a view invoice. I can rename that to SFA invoice. That will only affect your screen, it won't affect your colleagues, and it's just a faster way to work. Sage 200 also learns what you do on which day of the week. So if you do your payments run, so traditionally this will sit there and learn what you do, but if you do your payments run every Friday, on a Friday you can launch straight into this screen. It will try and guide you through what you do on a day-to-day basis. So there's quite a lot of information in here. I'm not going to take you through too much more. You'll be pleased to hear that you're not going to have to listen to me for much longer. As mentioned, this recording will be going out to everybody who's registered and will be available on our website. If you do have any queries or questions, then please do take it up with your Sage 200 account manager. That's either Dan and myself, and we'll be more than happy to help you. So guys, that's it. Unless there's any questions, I can't see any appearing in the chat. Well, thank you for your time, everyone, this morning. Slightly shorter than we expected it to be. But if you do have any queries, as mentioned, speak to your account manager and they'll be only too happy to help you. Thank you.